Welcome to Try This at Home. I'm Cliff Bumgardner.
I'm back to being Harrison Stewart. I took a break and was Brockton McKinney last week, but now I'm still Harrison Stewart.
Your Brockton McKinney impression is incredible, I have to say. You did a great job.
I mean, I think I've got like the facial stuff down, like with the makeup. It's really once you get in the makeup, you just inhabit the role. It's incredible.
And you committed so hard, you went to his house to record it, which was just...
I did. I married his wife, Like, had to make sure that it was all real. Eat your heart out, Jared. He would never.
We are excited that you are back. Glad to have you back in the seat. And thank you again to Brockton for standing in last minute on a podcast he had never listened to about a show he had never watched. So he did a great job. Coming in. I thought it was a really fun episode and great to get a perspective of someone who's not like fully Mythbusters brain broken at this point, the way that we are.
Yeah. What do you think? Did he like it? Like,
yeah.
Is he going to watch 250 some odd more episodes or?
I don't know about that. He was very nice to say that he was going to keep watching the show and listening to us, but he said that on the air, so I don't know if he was just being nice.
I don't think that's true.
We'll have to bring him back on next season and like quiz him, see if he's actually been listening to the show.
Yes, exactly. Like,
but
on episode 231.
I'm excited to get back to analyzing the show with you as we have done, and we have a great episode to talk about today. It's actually a little bit of a milestone episode. We are over halfway through this season of the show.
We're halfway through season 2? Or are we on 3?
2, 3.
Oh, that's right. The whole.
Don't get me going on the season. This season of the show.
I remember now.
You're gone for 1 week and you give me a conniption over where we are in the show.
Yeah.
Whatever season we're in, we are now over halfway through, which is really exciting. It's hard to believe. It feels like we just saw the build team for the first time, and here we are with them almost
and
as
now they
as
have
full-fledged.
2. They have like 2 full myths in this one.
I know, it's awesome to see, and we've got Grant joining the show very soon. We're really catching up. It's awesome. But diving into this week's episode, our myths are: is yawning contagious? Toy car top speed? And toast buttered side up or down? It originally aired December 22nd, 2004. Bit of a weird Christmas episode, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Produced by our friend Andrew Farrell, written by Martin Ives or Ives. I still have not looked up how to pronounce his last name, so apologies, Martin. But great to see you back on the show. But you made a face.
If you would like to email us how we're doing it.
If you want to get in touch, here's how to do it. You made a face when I said it was a great episode. What were your overall thoughts this week?
I didn't like it very much.
Really?
And now granted, we've done this whole song and dance before where I didn't think I enjoyed it, and then we talked about it. I was like, all right. There was more there than, but like, I almost felt like it was 1 for 3 this week. I thought that the test track was interesting. Yawning was almost a complete bust for me. And then toast, not interesting in its findings, but just, it was one of those where it's like, I love the way that they handled it,
Yeah.
Where it's like, similar to the plant talking one, where it's like, guys, come on, let's be serious here. What do you mean? Does it affect but they ended up getting some kind of interesting conclusions-ish. So we'll see. We'll talk about it. Convince me. What did you think? Did you? What
I was gonna say. This is gonna be funny. One of my thoughts was, I don't know that this is like my favorite episode or anything. There's been other myths, other moments, but I thought, in terms of what we talk about on this podcast all the time, of how far the show has come, the fact that they were able to make people in a room yawning into what was, for me, interesting television. I just kept making notes about like, wow, they're good at this. They have found so many ways to to make things interesting and to break things down and to really just, this episode to me had a little bit of all the things that I love about the show. Everything from small scale testing. We got multiple build-offs, which I know is a favorite of yours.
That's true.
So I'm actually surprised to hear that you didn't like it. It'll be I'm interested as we go along to see who convinces who.
I'm really interested to see if we could induce yawning in the audience just from the audio. And how boring we are. Let's get into it.
Myth 1, toy car top speed. Can a toy car go faster than a real car? Now, at first blush, you go, no, real cars have engines. But this is actually about gravity. This is about on an incline hill, no engines involved. Will a toy car actually go faster over a stretch of ground, which they define as this goes on to be 1/4 of a mile is what they're actually going to test. Will it go faster than a real car? And early on in this one, normally they do their own guesses like right before the test. They hit this early on where Adam and Jamie both go, I have no clue what was going to happen. I was in the exact same boat of hearing that question. I was like, I thought it was really interesting because I was like, genuinely, I don't know. I don't know what to. I didn't remember this myth at all from previous. I remembered the yawning myth and I remembered the buttered toast. I did not remember this at all. So I was like fully. Maybe that's part of why I was so in on this one, because I thought this question was great.
I also had no idea, but was like just certain for reasons that I can't explain that it was going to be the car. It's not backed by anything. I've got no science to suggest. Like I didn't run the numbers, do some physics on that bad boy, but I was just like, I don't know. It's a big car. It's a big old vroom vroom. Why would it not go faster than small car? It bigger, Cliff. It bigger, it go fast.
I think that does get into why this is an interesting question, though, because that is like your natural response, right? Is like, well, of course, a real car is going to go faster than a toy car. But it did make, this is one of those myths where maybe the fact that they were asking the question made me expect that things were going to be surprising. And they kind of are. We'll get there. It's actually a little bit, it's not as clear cut as you might think if you think the real car is going to beat the toy car. But so I just thought it was a great question for exactly that reason of it's counterintuitive. And I was waiting to be even more surprised than I think we ultimately were, but it was a cool idea. Yeah. The small scale testing on this one is so smart to me because they start out, they're going to really break this down and talk about, can a toy car actually go as fast as a real car? Like, is it even possible? Are the wheels going to fly off or break? Is the car going to stay on the ground because it doesn't have nearly, of course, the weight of a real car? Yeah. And they have a series of tests to figure that out, which include putting a toy car onto the tire of a real car to test the speed, which I thought was so smart.
I thought that was brilliant. Yeah. That especially since that was, I frequently, as I'm watching, have dumb ideas well, could they do it this way? And then they'll usually be like, so this is why we're not doing it this way. I'm like, oh yeah, no, of course not.
I was just kidding. I was testing you.
I was seeing if you knew that wasn't going to work. But this was one that I was like, could you put it against the wheel of a car? And they're like, what if we put it against the wheel? And I was like, ha. Now, granted, they did it a lot smarter. I would not have thought to put down the tape to cover up the treads and stuff like that.
Building the little holder.
Building the little holder.
There's no pressure on the car and it's just sitting there. Genius. I loved watching that.
Adorable too. I loved when they played it in slow motion when it was up to 90. It was just just bouncing all around. That was a fun visual.
They don't mention, by the way, they don't call any attention to the fact that the card they're using for that is really cool. The real car. It's some sort of little sporty coupe car that they just randomly pull up we've never seen before, and that's the test car, and we never see it again. No attention is paid to this. Is this Jamie's car?
I guess that's right. because like I just kind of assumed that was going to end up being the car that they raced, but then like the race itself is like much later in the episode, so I had like forgotten at that point. I have a strong memory, Cliff. I could definitely object permanence. I've got it down. But yeah, no, it couldn't have been Jamie's car. I mean,
I would love for it to be Jamie's car, though.
To just take a forklift to the back. That was also, like, I love how jerry-rigged the whole thing was,
yeah.
You know?
Well, we saw them blow up biscuits in Adam's car not long ago, so they're not precious about it.
That's true. They could have used the same car. But no, they decide to go for this little sporty coupe that never makes an appearance again.
I wondered where Earl was, but I think he's dead. I think they
killed Earl.
Bulletproof car myth, I think, was the end of Earl.
They took Earl out behind the workhouse, behind the work shed, and you know, it happens to old cars. They go insane. They start biting, and
it's
never easy. It's never good. But what you need to realize is that the car that you knew is gone. It's gone. Whatever the shell is left, we need to old yeller it.
It's really dark for a car. I feel a lot of sympathy for a car that I wasn't expecting to feel.
It happens, man. It happens. It happens.
They're able to.
It's life, Cliff. We all age. We're all gonna die. Memento mori, baby. Got to keep it front of mind.
I'm starting to see maybe why you didn't like this episode is the general headspace you're in right now might not have been the most conducive to some fun myth busting.
Oh, facing death down is not like the best headspace to be in. It's an interesting theory. I'm not sure I agree, but it is an interesting theory. We'll put it to the test. We've got what? Yeah, we've got 45 minutes left to put this theory to the test.
This week on Mythbusters, will Harrison lose his mind over the course of the show?
Harrison has an existential crisis on air. It's just like nothing matters, man. Nothing even freaking matters. It's all said and done. We're just done. Like Dust in the Wind slowly starts playing in the background. Did we pay our entire budget to get 10 seconds of Dust in the Wind? Yes, we did. Was it worth it?
Yes, we did. It was worth it.
Let us know in your 4-star review.
There we go. If ever a 4-star review was appropriate, that's the one.
It's now.
They're able to get the toy car up to 85 miles per hour, which was impressive. I honestly thought the wheels were going to fly off of that little thing. Like, I didn't think that would ever stand up to that kind of abuse. They also tested in a makeshift wind tunnel using a leaf blower, which was just some primo Mythbusters DIY kind of stuff. Like I had multiple moments in this episode, especially one we're going to get to here in a second when Adam makes his own car. I felt like I was watching Tested. Adam's YouTube channel. It just like, it's a lot of like them in the shop working on lathes and doing all this like weird, funny model work and makeshift stuff like the leaf blower. I thought all of that stuff, it was like, wow, this is exactly what like made the, Adam's kind of brand that he's still, doing to this day through Tested. It was cool to see.
Well, I also love that. On the one hand, I want all of the items in the show to remain intact. On the other hand, I understand how like wildly impractical that is. And it's kind of nice to see them like recycle pieces from like, I mean, obviously we're not going to need like this leaf blower again. Let's make a wind tunnel with it. Might as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It was awesome. And this is where we got a mini build off. Very unexpected in this episode. They all of a sudden say that
unexpected,
Adam and Jamie,
even I think to Jamie.
Yes, I think so.
Sure, fine.
They're going to build their own toy cars to see if they can make something fast. And as you would expect, Jamie built something that is sleek. It's made of aluminum. It looks like it's from the Terminator. It's this beautiful little design. Adam's is literally made of lead.
Yes. It flies like a lead car.
He's gonna make a toy car, and he goes, "Give me a block of lead."
Give me a block of lead. To be fair, that is precisely how they made toys for everything up until like 1960. So like,
true. This is fair.
Not too far off.
And his car does work in terms of the actual speed. It's heavy enough that it really does create speed. We see some problems later on with it, staying attached to the ground.
But I blame the ground. Like, I mean, we'll get there in a minute, but like that was one thing where I almost felt like it wasn't that fair because they had just brought up that there had been issues with the track, and then the thing goes flying off and like, oh, poor, silly, stupid Adam can't make it. And it's like, I don't, dog, I think he made it pretty well. It was zooming there for a sec. If anything, it was going too fast, and that's like what messed it up.
It's one of those things on Mythbusters, this has happened numerous times over the course of the show, where they do something for the first time it's ever been done, and then are like, these idiots couldn't make it happen. It's like, it's never happened before. We've never had a quarter mile of toy car track, and you expect it to just work?
It's so funny. It's one of my favorite things that Robert Lee just comes in and is like, what a moron. It's really good, man.
It's good. It's. Did
I get his name wrong?
No, Rob Lee.
Okay.
You got it.
Okay, Rob Lee. All right.
Our buddy Rob Lee.
I very briefly got incredibly worried. That was like, that's a Civil War general. How dare you? Like, no, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. Okay. Cut it out or leave it. I don't.
No, the narrator of the show, Ulysses S. Grant. Of course, that's what we all know. It's who narrated the show.
What did you think he was doing after the war? He was president. Yeah, but after that.
But do you know that he wasn't the narrator of Mythbusters? No, you do not.
Yeah, you do. Thanks for listening to the show. You're welcome for learning something.
You learn something every time you come to try this at home. We didn't even need a research hole for that one. Nope. We just knew it.
Just came to us.
So we alluded to this a minute ago, but this is where they actually go out to Lake Tahoe. Harrison's just coughing up a storm and snotting all over while he's trying to record the show.
All right, Lake Tahoe. Let's do it.
Harrison's doing really well, guys. Don't worry. Everything's fine.
Woo. All right. Hi.
They have to go to Lake Tahoe to actually get a stretch of road. I'm powering through. They have to go to Lake Tahoe to get a stretch of road where they can actually test this myth, which was really cool. I mean, the environment where they shoot this thing is amazing. This long sloping road in this beautiful, very scenic little village. It's awesome to see. And they get a Dodge Viper to be their test car. Completely unnecessary. They didn't need an actual race car, but I'm glad they did. It was a nice touch.
It was a nice touch.
If only for the reason that when they interview the owner, they get to give him a lower third that says Viper owner.
He also
pretty good.
Looked like he was just not having it. Like it was really funny to me to imagine what are these losers doing out here with these toys, these damn toys. Anyway, I'm gonna jump in my motorized box that goes and go real fast.
I'm gonna put on a full racing suit.
Excessive.
for my unpowered downhill race with a toy car. I was just it's in the spirit of the show. Adam dresses up all the time, so it's completely on brand, but they just cut to him in the car and he's like, I'm ready. It's like Ford versus Ferrari all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But he's going up against
such an intense race in my life. This one's for
come on,
the
man.
marbles.
You're taking this a little too seriously, I think, my friend, although I appreciate the dedication, but come on.
Good dedication.
So as we said before, they're going to test this over a quarter mile of track, and they actually have to get the toy car track custom made for this myth. And they say that this is a world record that no one has ever put down a quarter mile of toy car track, which of course they haven't.
Yeah, yeah. Like under what circumstances could you? It's actually I was waiting for ingenious of them to go to Lake Tahoe for that. Like that would not have occurred to me. Like, where do we need an inclined straight shot for like a while? And they're like, well, oh, yeah,
and it is funny because they do mention we're in San Francisco. We're in like the hilliest town in America, but there's not one that's long enough, which was interesting that they had to go to Tahoe. But
especially since they didn't even end up using that length.
That came to me too at the end. It's like, okay, you probably could have done this like down the street from the shop. You didn't have to go to Lake Tahoe and buy a quarter mile of custom toy car track.
But aren't you glad you did?
I got way too interested in this toy car track. There's something about, we've seen this on the show before, just like insane amounts of something or insane amounts of something that's very normal that you wouldn't normally see that much of. As they say, this track was made custom, so I have no idea, and this was 20 years ago, so I have no idea how much that would cost, but I wondered if we were trying to do it now, how much it would cost, so I did a little bit of Googling.
Oh, you know? Oh, this isn't rhetorical? You have an answer?
I have an answer. I got really excited about this. Okay. So on Amazon, I found 15 feet of blue track that looked similar to what they use. Not exactly the same, but it looked pretty similar. 15 feet of track was $44. So by my math, a quarter mile of track would be almost $3,900. You're talking about $4,000 worth of toy car track.
Book it. Do it. Buy it. You know what? Everything that we've made off of the show so far, put towards it. Cliff, how much have we made?
We can afford 0 feet of toy car track, it turns out.
Okay. That's and that's less than the second one, than the first one that you said? 0 is less than the
0 is less than a quarter mile, yes.
Quarter mile. Damn. All right, well, back to the drawing board, gang. Do you think there's something... Okay. When they were saying toy car tracks, what color did you have in your head?
That's a very good question. Orange.
Yes. I wonder if there's something proprietary about it. Cuz like
that's an interesting question.
Cuz I mean I don't, you can't patent the color orange, right? Like I don't, but like maybe this type of orange on a track they own the rights to, something like that.
Well,
I don't know.
I hadn't even considered that, but thinking back, I think the company that built the track that was there helping them put it down, they had a name. I don't remember. I didn't write it down. But they were wearing shirts with their logo on it, and the logo was blue. So I wonder if like blue track is like their trademark so as to not look like Hot Wheels track. Are we getting into a world of toy car track stuff? Beef?
We were bound to. Come on. This was the path we walked down the second we decided to do 300 episodes of the show. We knew this was coming. We knew it was
I'm here for it. I'm just confirming that that's where we are.
100%. I don't know. I just like, again, they said toy tracks. I was like, got it. Orange. And then when the blue came out, it really threw me for like more of a loop than I was expecting. Like I was just really confused. That's not, you can't race cars on blue.
Everybody knows orange is faster. Orange is faster than blue. It's a much faster color. Doesn't it feel like that?
I think we just figured it out. The reason they couldn't beat the Viper was on blue.
It's on blue. You're never going to get there on blue. You got to go on orange.
Rookie mistake. Also,
is there a color?
Why not?
Is there a color faster than orange? Like if it was like bright red, would it make it go even faster?
Faster than orange. The super annoying thing about how nonsensical that question is that there probably is an answer. Like there's probably one person listening to this is like, yeah, you don't know about light spectrum. Well, obviously red gets there first. It's like, nah. So listener,
send us an email.
Please send us an email. is there a color that's faster than orange? You interpret what we mean by that.
Yes.
I will give you no guidance. That's the question. Have at it, internet. Have at it.
I look forward to not reading your response.
I will. Oh my gosh, I will. I make a bit of a sport of reading super long things that I have no business reading. It's kind of my whole deal. So send us an email, please.
With all of this track, this is another moment of like production misery. There was a little bit of this last week when Brockton was on the show, when they were trying to test the pothole myth of you just see them trying this over and over again and running into problem after problem, and it just feels like, oh my God, this would be so miserable to do. And in this case, it's that they cannot get the track to lay flat. As it starts to get hot, as the sun comes out for the day, it is just buckling all over the place, and they are having problem after problem after problem to lay a 1/4 mile of custom track that cost, by our calculations, probably at least $3 to $4 grand. And then it just doesn't work. Oh my God, that would suck so bad.
That is brutal. That is brutal. Because I it's not the responsibility of the business owner, but if someone is like trying to order this and explains to you what they're gonna do, maybe mention it. Maybe mention that in the sun. But you could also argue that the boys should have known better,
Well, that's interesting because I think they did, because they didn't actually seem surprised by the problem. Adam even had the math. Adam even says, if this track gets hot, it could be, I think he said 4 to 5 feet longer. So it seemed like they had done the math on that at some point. But maybe there was just not a way around. I mean, my thinking when I was watching it was, and obviously it was too late at that point, but if you had glued the track down...
that, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Put in a loop. Yeah. If you had glued the track down to like a board or something like that, like skateboard ramp material or something like that, where it would stay straight all the way, obviously that would have taken a lot longer and been a nightmare in its own right. But that was my only thought of like, if you knew that the heat was going to be a problem, that would have been the way to go at it. So I don't know. I don't know if they knew or not, but they just didn't act super surprised when it happened.
Good point. That's a good point. I guess I just hadn't, because I was definitely getting like Pinewood Derby vibes from this.
Totally.
So I guess I just hadn't at all thought. But who did? Who in the world is thinking what's going to happen when there's this much plastic? I mean, like at best you get 4 friends together to combine like all the tracks they've got. That's absolute maximum. That's wishful thinking. So like a 1/4 mile? Yeah, we're kind of in uncharted territory. I could see how they wouldn't have a whole lot of options left. But I mean, they readjusted, and this is also to your point, like how quickly they readjusted seems like they knew that this could happen,
And it also seems like, because they really leaned on the fact that this was a record, that was part of them, that was like, well, even if it doesn't work, we can still say it's still good TV to say we set a record for the most track ever laid. So it's like they got something out of it. They do end up shortening the track to 400 feet, which is their final actual testing distance. And at that length, the regular toy car, not one of their souped up toy cars, goes about 22 miles per hour, which is really impressive. I mean, 22 miles an hour downhill.
Yeah, that's a lot faster than I thought.
We've talked about before that like 22 miles an hour, if you're driving a car, seems very slow. But if something goes past you at 22 miles an hour, that's fast. That is crazy fast.
That is fast. I also wonder if they could have built up even more speed. Like, I can't quite figure out if it was like topping out at 22 or like, because I mean, I remember when I was a kid, especially when there was a loop involved. I'm not going to get off the loop, sorry, but like it was like it was almost like an automatic baseball pitcher where it's got like
two
like wheels spinning really fast and it'll just like shoot the car out of it. I wonder if they could have gotten like a little more oomph with one of those.
Well, I'm sure. I mean, they proved that the car could go. I think it was 70 miles per hour was where it topped out for actually with wind resistance. So they proved that the car can go faster. It's just a matter of within the myth, you're supposed to just be going downhill, unassisted. Next to a car.
Fair.
And when they get to the real
fair,
I know, the real test. At 25 feet, the toy car actually leads the Viper. The Viper catches up around 50 feet, but by 100 feet, the Viper is clearly in the lead. And at 400 feet,
there's regular toy car.
With the regular toy car, Adam's toy car wouldn't even make it down the track. So that gets taken out really early. And just some random child who shows up just gives Adam shade about it. Did you notice that?
Oh, that was...
There was a kid all of a sudden.
I did notice that specifically because that was the track guys' kids. And the only reason that I really noticed it is because the Rob Lee was like, who brought his offspring? Why did you say it like that?
And then makes a lot of jokes about not working with kids.
Yeah, yes. Now those could stay. Every single one of those could stay. Even got a carry dig in there.
Yeah. Yeah, it was flying. People were catching strays around those kids. It was good.
Yeah. It was nice.
When they test Jamie's car, the Viper still beats it, but only by a few seconds. And actually up to 100 feet, Jamie's car was still in the lead. So that little bit of Jamie engineering actually comes in. But at 400 feet, and certainly if you were able to scale this up to a quarter mile, it just seems like there's no way that the toy car could keep up, which makes sense. Not as satisfying as you want, but pretty cool to see that up to 100 feet, it was still keeping pace with a freaking sports car.
Yes. And I mean, that was, like you were saying at the beginning, that was the part that was the most shocking, was just that there was any there at all. Now I got to see him build a loop for a real car. That's what I want.
Ooh,
that's why I couldn't stop thinking about the entire episode.
That's the equivalent
now
of
you race them both on a looped track.
That's the equivalent of just blowing up the cement truck. It's like, we don't need to do this, but we're just going to build a loop because it's kind of related.
You keep the Viper guy in the car.
Well, he's dressed for it. He'll be fine.
It just goes, and like right at the peak, just drops straight down. Oh, Mr. Viper.
Well, this myth was busted, but I look forward to seeing the loop in the future.
Boosted.
It's the newest kid things. It's Brick Car. It's faster than anything and uglier than everything, too.
And if you throw it at your brother really hard, it'll kill him.
Myth 2, is yawning contagious?
Yes.
Normally I would describe what
Move on.
Normally I would describe what this myth is about, but that's it. Can you influence someone to yawn is basically the idea of this. And I have heard this my whole life. Like, right? Like somebody yawns in a group and you go, oh, you're making me do it. Oh, I've heard this.
Right. You cannot tell me you watched this episode and did not yawn.
That's a very obvious thing I should have been thinking about, but
What are you doing, Cliff?
I know. I don't actually think I did.
Okay,
I don't think I yawned while watching this episode.
Well, that means you're a psychopath. No. Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I'm just a sleepy boy. Maybe I'm just always pining for a nice pillow in a reasonably comfortable spot. But
and see,
yes, I was yawning nonstop throughout this entire segment.
That's why I found this show so interesting, or this myth so interesting, is that like there's many times on the show where they'll tease something up, and I've never heard of it before, and it's some wives' tale, and like who would know? This is something you hear about all the time, but there's
all the time.
And you may like you were saying, you may go into this with like, yeah, of course this is true. I've always heard this, but from a statistical standpoint, I thought it's really interesting to go, okay, is there actually anything behind that, or is that just sort of a, our own biases reinforcing something? So I was really actually into this question and this myth.
Further into things I am. Stuck the landing. What do you mean we don't know why we yawn? Is that true?
Yeah, that.
Did you catch that? Like at one point they're like, nobody knows why we yawn. I was like, what? What do you mean nobody knows?
I'd always heard that it's like about moving blood to the brain and stuff. Like when you're tired and you need to move oxygen through your blood or whatever.
Right.
Yes, I did notice that too. I was like, it's been 20 years. Maybe we didn't know then. I don't know.
But listen, yawning science has come a long way since then.
We got yawning down. Way. Dark energy, no clue. Yawning?
No idea. No, gravity?
Yawning, we're on.
But no, I mean that.
We're yawning.
We've got, but apparently we don't. Did you just say we're yawning?
Yeah, I did.
Hell yeah, dude. Dude, come on. You gotta save that fire for the very end. You're just coming in the middle with that? Now we got expectations to meet, dog. Damn.
I think
it'd be a tough episode now. Straight up eviscerate with wordplay. That's what I am. That's what just happened to me. Incredible. I'm also being sincere. I
thank you.
That.
I was gonna say we're earning that 4-star review right now is what I was thinking, but
it's gonna be from me. I'm gonna make a new email account just to leave a 4-star review.
Nice. We appreciate it. Well, hey, we do bargain all the time, so we'll take it. I did
all the time.
Did you think about, because they had the section you just mentioned about where they talk about kind of what yawning is, why it works, blah blah blah. They have this whole great graphic where it's like they're showing you, I think it's Adam, that they kind of like, it's like its chest rips open and they do all this cool stuff.
Yeah.
It was a great bit of animation in the show. But this section of the show where they go into the science on something is now to me the like 1-for-1 stand-in for Heather Joseph Witham, for the folklorist.
Yeah.
Like this is where I was like, and cut to her. And instead, now it's the more scientific approach, which is it's so interesting because we talked about that a lot last year, about that kind of transition to less folklore, more science. Now we're really here, where all of these myths in this episode were really about physics and, biology and blah, blah, blah.
All science.
All science.
The time.
That is
nonstop science.
I do miss some of the folklore though, I gotta say.
Oh, I definitely do. I think I would love a mix, or to go harder on to have this be all science and to have like a secondary. I don't know.
Yeah, well, this myth that is actually a good critique of this episode. I think is like all of the myths are very much down sort of one lane. We don't have the variety that we typically get in a lot of episodes. So I think that's fair.
And that lane doesn't have a single loop. Damn it! Give me a loop.
So let's get stuck into the actual testing on this myth, because I thought this was really interesting. This was very different from most of the things we've seen so far on the show, where this wasn't testing in terms of we're going to make rigs and do physics-based kind of testing. This was very like psychological testing in this episode. A whole different kind of science than we've seen so far, which I enjoyed.
I did too. It was very amusing. Like if this was the first episode that I watched of this show, and I didn't know anything about any of these people, didn't trust them, some of the stuff that they say out of context is like wildly concerning.
Yeah.
We're just going to bring these people in, not tell them what we're doing, and just mess with their heads. It's like, I know what you mean. Out of context again. That's but I mean, it's just with yawning. Did you? Okay. Let me just go ahead and show cards. This was my least favorite. This was the real link week. This was the link week. I don't know.
It's the link this week.
Well, we're recording on May the 4th be with you, so that's why I'm talking like Yoda. It has nothing to do with wild sleep deprivation and generally not taking care of myself and subsisting off of Nerds gummy clusters. Please sponsor me. Please sponsor me. But come on, get it back. I know where I'm going with this. I have no idea.
The audience is going to be doing well checks on Harrison when this episode comes out.
You're not going to like what you hear. No. This was just the like I just didn't know the methods of testing were weird. I didn't know what we were testing for. When it came time to like call it, to like come up with a conclusion, I was just like, I don't know how the data like bears that out at all. This one was just weird. Like I didn't, it's such a difficult, because it is likely a psychological phenomenon. I understand it's very hard to test for, but that's kind of why I was weirded out when you get to the end of it and they just call it outright. And it's like, what in the... How?
I will say that too. I will say for sure, I wanted by the end of this myth, when they got to the end and they talk about their overall results, I bought the results based on what they did, and I think I maybe followed their idea a little bit more, but I was waiting for them to cut to, and they visited this scientist who explained, and then they lay it out.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
I was waiting for that, which we've seen before. They've done that numerous times on the show. I was waiting for that kind of element of like, these were tests to visualize an idea, a scientific idea or a scientific principle that is known, and here's what it is. Right. Instead, what we get is very, very close results, and they go, yeah, it's confirmed. Yeah. Sounds right. That part I'm with you. That part I was like, it's not that I don't believe them, but I don't know why.
But it was like out of what the sample poll was like 50 people, and the split was like 27-23, and they're like, oh, eat. We can definitely like draw. Oh, do you have the actual
25-29? Yeah, 25-29.
See, that's even less clear to me. That's.
Well, so we should say they start with a much smaller sample size. And the idea to me with this was, it was really about influencing people to yawn and to try to see what effect that had. And so initially they get 10 people, I think it was 10 people in a room, and
an uncomfortably small room.
And that they construct in the shop. Yeah. not even an office there in the building.
And put both of the women in pantsuits for some reason.
I noticed that too. It's like becomes a game show all of a sudden. Like, what's going on?
Okay.
But I think the idea was, and they don't really get to it, they actually cut this test short. But the idea was, we're going to bring people into a room, have them sit down, and just monitor in a pretty dry situation when people don't feel like they're being watched. How much do they yawn on average? Then we're going to do it again, and we're going to try to influence them. We're going to yawn as we introduce ourselves, or as we talk to them, or we're going to try to do things, and we're going to see if once people start yawning, if on average people yawn more. I think was the idea. That gets cut short in the first test because they just don't have enough people. And Adam and Jamie come in and are like, this is not going to get you what you want. We don't think this is going to work. I actually disagreed there because I thought, one group of 10 people is not going to do it. But my thinking was, you would do, like any test, you would do this all day.
With the same,
You'd bring in the same amount of people, give them the same amount of stimulus. You'd have a control group that you don't yawn in front of. You just measure how much they yawn. Then you bring in the next group, which is kind of what they end up doing, but with people one-on-one. But you bring in the next group, then you have people yawning, and you see if you can induce people to yawn more than they normally would. I actually completely bought that method of testing, but they cut it short, which I think is probably part of what makes it feel confusing in the episode itself.
there's that. I also would have been more inclined to do something like the test would have been there's no plant to trigger like a yawn reaction. And
Right.
the other one, you have Carrie or whoever in there that's yawning and trying to get a wave going.
That would be interesting if they had someone who is like just an actor, just someone we don't know on the show who is a plant in the group, and it's the same one each time. And sometimes she yawns and sometimes she doesn't.
Yeah.
That could have been an interesting tweak to that. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Because where they end up going with it is actually going to a flea market so they can get a larger sample size. They make their interview room into a series of torture cells in the back of an unmarked truck.
Well, when you
Which
put
gets
it
to
like
your-
that,
No,
it is. That's what happened. I mean,
I did think it was interesting, though, that when they go to the flea market, they actually are talking to people who know who they are, which changes the dynamic a little bit of like these people don't know what they're being tested for, but they do know that something is going on, which I thought was interesting because it's not really a variable that I don't know was particularly needed, but so it was kind of neat to see. And they do kind of what we're talking about there.
but everyone was separated. So, like, I don't get that. It's like, I thought that we were specifically testing for empathetic yawning, like, can one person cause other people to yawn just by seeing it? And then I love that they even threw in, like, the dog. Because I do know that that's a thing. But,
well, I still think they were going for that. It's just that they were doing it one-on-one versus the spread in a group. Because what they would do is Carrie is inviting people in. She's the one kind of checking people in and putting them in the rooms in the truck. She yawns at every two out of every three. So there's one control person in each one. And that's going to be their comparison is no stimulus of not having had someone in front of them yawn versus the stimulus of Carrie yawning in front of them. And what
makes more sense.
What impact does that have? I think that was the idea. But as I go back through this, I remember this episode, and so maybe it was a little bit clearer to me. But you are right. There is some. They don't really sit down and spell that out as clearly as they actually are very clear in the butter myth, which we'll get to in a minute, about what they're testing and how. And it is interesting that this isn't quite as clear.
I have a strong suspicion that this will be one of the retests. That this will be one that people are like, that didn't prove anything. You've got to go back to the drawing board, yada, yada, yada.
I'm looking forward to seeing when the next Myths Revisit is, because I don't know. I honestly don't know when they did that again, and I don't remember what the myths are. So you may be right. I'm very that's one of my favorite episodes all season, so I'm very curious to see when that comes back.
Calling it now. I would also like to see them end the myth of if you don't empathetic yawn, it means you have no empathy and you're a psychopath. Did you ever? Was that like a schoolyard myth that you heard back in the day? Yeah, that was. I don't think that's true, but I don't know. We haven't tested it.
We'll find out. Well, like we said, in this case, it was no stimulus was 25% of the time people yawned. With stimulus, 29% of the time people yawned. That was over 50 test cases in the course of a day, and they say that that is confirmed. I get it based on their data. Like it's a 4% swing, which, isn't nothing.
Yeah.
But obviously for a real test, you'd have to do this a lot more. And that's what I was expecting. They got to that point. And again, I was like, okay, that's confirmed. Now show me the greater science that you pulled from. And then they just kind of said, no, that's what it is. We did it. So yeah, I'm with you. I'd love to see this maybe come back or just to see a even bigger version of this. Cause I do think it's interesting, but maybe this result didn't quite give us everything.
Given how large our sample was, I'd say it's confirmed.
Confirmed.
Yeah.
There's little doubt it does seem to be contagious.
And I bet the audience at home right now is probably yawning.
Myth 3, toast, butter side up or down?
Hell yeah.
Pretty infamous myth. This is one.
This one.
When I saw this one pop up, I was like, "Oh man, this makes it into a lot of like reels and things as the show goes on." Pretty infamous myth. Idea here: does toast generally fall butter side up or butter side down? Is there a difference in what, if you butter your toast, is it going to make a difference in what side it falls on?
Okay.
And they
At
decide.
the outset,
Yeah, I was going there too.
what are you talking about? like, what in the world? Why would it make a difference? This was like the talking to plants where I was just like, what is this even worth testing? But also like the plants, it ended up with like a significantly more interesting conclusion than I felt where it started.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I thought you were going to go with, why do they do an old-timey British opening for this myth?
What do you talk? No, what? Cliff. No, the Grey Poupon.
That was the shocking part to me.
The Grey Poupon parody can stay every time. Come on, that was brilliant. Especially Jamie giving the most half-assed British accent of all time. Oh,
Jamie
sublime.
clearly not wanting to be there.
Yes. Was like, well, I'm enjoying the ascot and top hat, but I don't know why I need to do a funny voice.
Yeah, Jamie looked like, why did you show up at my house at this time in the morning to film? Like, I was just doing this. What?
Jamie
this is normal for me.
Jamie looked very right in that get up.
Yes.
Like Jamie
That's what I'm
definitely
saying.
has like a Victorian
He wasn't dressed up.
England.
That's just Sunday.
Right.
Like,
That's just his day off. That's what he dresses
That's why he
like,
was so mad.
left to his own devices, right? Like, what are you people doing in my house? This is my pleasant Sunday ritual.
To me, this myth, and they even call it out at one point. Adam compares it to the heads or tails kind of thing, right? That's essentially what it is. Is there an impact between the two? You know, is there some way that you can influence what is otherwise a completely random thing? What I didn't expect here too was to get another build off.
Again.
I didn't think in a toast myth we were going to have a build off, but we do. Adam and Jamie build two different rigs. Again, very Adam and Jamie. Jamie's is very simple. Adam's is completely over engineered. Jamie's works better. Everything you come to expect.
It is funny how quickly Adam now just accepts it, you know? Like, Jamie's just like, so we're going yours. Yes, fine. Do it. Go.
Even Jamie's, though, they end up kind of doing a hybrid of their rigs, because even the interesting thing about this myth to me, from like what we love about the show, engineering, testing kind of stuff, was these rigs and this idea of how do you drop something without influencing it at all?
Yeah.
Right. How do you drop something without with a truly random system, which is one of the hardest things to do. Like, humans are really bad at actually making things random. And you see that come out on the show all the time in really interesting ways. And they end up with this completely over-engineered rig with a conveyor belt and a built-in toaster and all this stuff. But it is fascinating to me that they have to make a rig that drops the toast vertically so that there's no influence of flipping on the bread. It is totally up to what is just going to happen when it falls. And they do manage to get their rig pretty well balanced, where it seems like there's no bias in it for the test, which is, for something as ridiculous as buttered toast, it's pretty darn good work.
So, but that's a really good point, because that addresses the top, I won't say concern, but the thing that was sticking the most in my craw at the beginning was the fact that I was like, no, it just appears that it's doing it face down more often because it's going to be face up on the plate. So, like, if you knock the plate, it's just going to catapult it. It's going to flip once to the other side. That makes perfect sense to me, you know? And
which is what Adam's rig shows.
Exactly. And I really like that they almost immediately addressed that, got that out of the way, so that we could essentially do how does toast perform in a vacuum? Like,
yeah.
All right.
Well, it is interesting because there is, like you said, a human side to it, and then like the science side to it. And I like that both are included. And that's something we don't always get, is like we've talked about before. I talked about it last week with Brockton, of there's certain results that you get where you're like, okay, that's what science says. But with people interact with this differently. You don't have test conditions, right?
Yeah.
It's a little bit different in actual life. And so, yeah, I like that Adam's rig was kind of built to show that. And then they go a step further to say, all right, let's look at test conditions and actually try to say whether their butter has any impact or whatnot, which was great testing, kind of stuff that we love. I also love that once they test the myth once with their rig and they find their results are exactly 50-50, they say, well, we need to test this again. Let's get more height. Take it to the roof.
Of course.
This is the visual.
Who has not been there, Cliff? You're having a nice Sunday brunch on the roof of your insane laboratory, and then all of a sudden the wind takes your toast. And what happens next?
Because you're going to pick it up either way, right?
Science happens next. Oh, yeah. No, I'm eating it. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Once you drop it off the roof, you go downstairs, you go all the way under. And
it's just a sidewalk with dead and rotting pigs buried into it. It's fine. 5 second rule.
I thought
it's fine.
I thought about that so much in this. Of just man, some weird stuff has happened on that sidewalk. There's literally
normal
a robot
has happened on that sidewalk. No normal sidewalk activities.
Throwing buttered toast at this sidewalk, and it is not even on the top ranking of the weirdest things that have happened in this location.
It doesn't even break the top 10.
No.
Great sidewalk.
I mean, it's also, this is the visual I remembered from this episode, was them throwing the toast off the roof, and I could not for the life of me remember how they get there. When they introduced this myth, I was like, all right, they go on the roof and just throw it off. And they start building machines, and I was like, what? I just remember them chucking it off the roof. And okay, we just need more height, and so we're just going to make our toast chucker. We're just going to put it on the roof and do it. Is how we get there.
5000.
Not really a great scientific reason. And to her credit, one of the things I loved about this whole thing, as ridiculous as it was, is that Carrie Byron has so much fun with this. Mm-hmm. She is not taking it seriously at all.
She's taking it as seriously as it demands, which is not at all.
Which is the perfect way. It's that thing. It's I think we said this on the show before. It's Han Solo in Star Wars.
Yep.
It's somebody in the thing mocking how ridiculous it is and giving you permission to laugh. And her line, she has a legendary line. I pulled the clip. This is another one of those that came back in montages. I'm pretty sure it ends up as her introduction at one point in the show during the opening credits, is when they're doing this and they just cut to Carrie and she says,
"My toast always lands butter side up."
Just silky, just such a smooth delivery. I want that on the board at all times. I have to imagine there will be a time in the course of this show where we just need that. We just need someone.
Need some butter side up.
We need some butter side up. Butter side up.
It's so good. And again, it's that
it's
thing.
It's lyrical,
Yes.
It bounces.
And we've seen these characters come to life over the course of this of the whole show, but especially this season with the build team and everybody slot into their roles. And Carrie is now in that slot of vibes is what she brings a lot of technical know-how and great testing ability and all that to the show. But her real asset to me is just good vibes. I'm a huge Carrie Byron fan to this day, but I did not remember how much of the feeling of Mythbusters that I love comes from her.
Yeah.
From the, painting funny things onto the stuff that they're testing, making the elaborate setups, the jokes, the, mocking how silly it is what they're doing. That is her, and she is contributing that to the show, and it is all encapsulated in this hilariously silly line. It's good.
Perfect. It's absolutely perfect.
This is where, though, they start to get into what you mentioned, the kind of surprising actual result that comes as a result as part of this. because the numbers when they drop them off the roof are a little bit closer and show that there is a preference towards the toast landing butter side up. And Adam comes down and they're just talking to Jamie about it, and Jamie points out, I was watching the toast as it fell, and what I noticed, the slices that had been buttered had a bit of because of the pressure of buttering, had a bit of a concave kind of bend to them. And like a leaf on the wind, it was more likely to kind of float down and land that way as opposed to flipping and landing, randomly. And so they actually say, interestingly, there may be a little bit of an impact at that kind of height, but that kind of height is never, again, when do you drop toast off of a roof? And if you do, you don't care what side it lands on. So it really doesn't matter.
It's gone. That toast belongs to the sidewalk now.
Yes, the dead pigs will enjoy it. Yeah. It is in their domain, not ours anymore. But yeah, it was kind of an interesting and surprising result, despite the overall, it doesn't impact the myth. It's still busted because statistically there's no difference, but it did end on a cool note.
Yeah, it at least introduced something into the equation that I hadn't considered, and that was actually the opposite. Because I can see why I would think that the myth would go, it always lands butter side down, but like that's confirmation bias, like you're noticing it because it's now inconveniencing you because you've just buttered the floor, but for it to be the opposite, that was like the saving grace to me about like, okay, all right, there was more to this than I initially thought. It's not just a simple coin flip. Thank you, Mythbusters, for explaining it.
Yeah. So a fun episode for me overall. Did you have any going through it? Did it change your opinion at all, or is this still like a C for you?
Still the yawn is still something that I'm predicting is going to be retested, or that at least I would imagine they probably got a decent amount of people like, no, I'm a yawn expert.
Yeah, I'm a yawn expert.
What a boring job.
I'm a yawn expert. That's all they talk.
You have to say do-to-do. It's like,
do-to-do. Oh.
Instead of MD, it's do-to-do.
Yawn expert, do-to-do.
Cliff Bumgardner, yawn expert, do-to-do. In talking with, I definitely came a little more around to the loopless track. But yeah,
still with the loops.
I still with the loops. I like it a bit better, but it's still not my favorite. And I think a lot of that is just because we've been having a lot of bangers recently, like a lot of very memorable ones, that it's just like, if this had placed somewhere earlier in the series, I think I would have noticed it less, but just because there's been such a strong upward trajectory, it felt a bit of a hiccup,
Yeah. This is also, funny you said, this is also a much smaller episode, which is it kind of makes it stand out too. And like all of these myths really are, other than having to go to Tahoe, there's not really a lot of, there's no explosions. We're not going out to Alameda and doing high tests in high speed. We're not shooting stuff. We're not, the high speed footage in this episode is toast falling, and cars, toy cars ramping into the busted sign, which was pretty cool. But so it is very different than what we see. I think that's a very interesting point, that if this had been like a season 1 episode, we probably would have been super into it. But it being at this point in the show, we've just seen a lot of bigger stuff and a lot more detailed kind of science stuff so far on the show.
Yeah, keep at it, kid. You'll have a hit on your hands one of these days.
Well, we'll see if next week's episode is a hit. The next episode is titled "Cooling a Six-Pack."
Look,
no idea.
You've already got me.
I didn't intend on looking ahead, but Max auto-played the next episode, and I saw something in the description. I think next week is the Ancient Batteries episode, which we've talked about quite a bit, and is a pretty infamous moment and kind of important inflection point in the show, if I remember correctly. So that will be
The moment that
very
gave
interesting.
Alexis Tsoukalos his entire career. Do you understand that reference? Is that?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. I was just gonna power through
I'll
and hope that the
explain it.
audience
I'll
did.
explain it next week.
There we go. Yeah, you guys will have to come back to hear the explanation for the joke.
Yeah.
That's always how great jokes go. The best comedy is a
Every great
cliffhanger.
joke-
We all know that.
Every great joke has a week in between where it comes back and they tell you what it meant. It's just science.
We hope you guys will come back. In the meantime, watch that episode wherever you find Mythbusters online. And while you're hunting around, be sure to drop us a rating and a review. We have really been digging into all the aspects of the show to try to get it out to more people. And the number one way to do that is you guys sharing it and leaving us those ratings, leaving us reviews wherever you listen to the show. It really does make a difference. So if you don't mind going out and doing that for us, we would appreciate it. But we will be back next week. And until then, thanks for listening.
Bye-bye, bubbies.
Try This at Home is produced by Slugline Media. The show is written, hosted, edited, and shot onto the internet by Cliff Bumgardner and Harrison Stewart. Our music is by the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. You can follow the show on Instagram @TryThisPod or email us trythisathomepod@gmail.com.